Reporting live from Vilnius, Lithuania, please welcome your host, Peterson with MedianReport.
We are here on the steps of Kablis, here in the very heart of Vilnius, in Lithuania. This is a beautiful place, culture place, and today it hosts a Baltic brand forum. The awards for most loved brands in the Baltics will be awarded tonight. And the usual suspects, as always, are Swedbank, Rimi, Maxima. You know, those are the brands that we see every day, but also they make a very important impact in society. And for that, they are cherished today. To talk about the cultural relevance, I couldn't find a better example as Lego. You know, a Danish toy maker. I will talk to Ben Richards, who is the internal agency's head of experience, and he will explain how Lego created cultural relevance on the Danish and also international society.
I know that a lot of companies, especially big size companies, create their own internal agencies, creative agencies. This is nothing new, but there are different reasons why they do that. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit why Lego has their own agency?
Yeah, I can certainly try. First of all, like I said, big businesses are complex businesses, right? So you need somebody who knows you intimately to make the best work and make the best output and be able to understand how to get work through the machine. I also think with, I prefer the word integrated agency than in-house agency.
Yes, of course.
And it's because you can have those conversations with the different experts who wouldn't normally be in a conventional agency environment. I'd also add that it's not just us. We work with agencies all the time, right? But we are the lead agency, and we absolutely collaborate with some of the best and the brightest people and agencies across the world. So it's a combination of those two things. It's knowing the business, but also I don't happily know it all. So you do work with other agencies and other partners to do additional things.
You are very strong. The agency is very strong on e-commerce, in e-commerce sector.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe give a little outlook why and how you are doing things that makes you successful in that area?
Well, a huge part of that was COVID, right? We made lots of people not be able to go to our fantastic retail stores and our flagship stores, and those behaviors stuck, right? But also e-commerce is its own ecosystem within itself. It isn't just owned. It's like we have our partners in Amazon and Walmart and Target and Carrefour and Tesco's, and they're all part of this ecosystem. We're really proud of our own e-commerce, right, and our own .com, and there are benefits to shopping directly with us, which we try and showcase. But yeah, behavior is, especially with big box stuff, it's, of course, why would you put it in a shopping cart or carry it home from the toy store in Vilnius when you can order it and get it directly to your home, right?
Yeah. Have you found yourself an answer to the question why there are so many fans of that brand in the world?
I think the answer to that question is probably different for everyone, right? I do think there is this, there are some overarching themes, that Lego do. Obviously, the players at the heart of what we do. Children are at the heart of what we do. But within that, there's a joy about it. And I also think they're saying you're making it. And it's always, the models are so impressive and hats off. I'm not in the model team. I'm in the creative experience team. But those teams who do that how they interpret things. That's the magic. interpretation of the models and how you discover things as you like. The journey of the build is so lovely, and then you end up with a thing. And yeah, you might break apart that thing and build new stuff. That's cool. But sometimes you might keep that thing and display that thing. But I also think there's that, I made that as a bit of an IKEA furniture thing, right? You know, I made that. And I think that's a big part of it. And then it's just knowing fans, and, you know, the IP partners have fan bases, and what the Lego group do really well is accretive to those fans and those fans' experience. Like, it's more, and we're bringing something to that party, that fan party, which is like, it's like elevating. It's really cool. It's really cool. I think that's why it's like knowing your audience and just all those other things. Are you a fan of Lego?
Yes, and when I look at my kids, for example, what I see is that they have created their first ever creation, something with their own hands for the first time of their lives, with Lego, and I think that sticks. That's somewhere that stays in your mind, and you remember that was the first time you created something.
Lovely. That's what it's all about, right? And it's really tangible and tactile.
Yeah.
It's satisfying.
It is. It is.
It's all those things. It's a wonderful cocktail.
And also a little bit of a meditation is also there.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I reckon that's you know, adults building Lego. I reckon just like stay, like zone out. Let's you know, let's build the Eiffel
Why
Tower.
not do a puzzle? But then again, it's three dimensions and everything. So why not to create?
Also, the whole experience, even the instruction manuals are great. You know, the boxes are beautifully designed. You know, it's it's intensely satisfying, isn't it?
And now for a moment, let's leave Vilnius and move to Helsinki. We visited this week's one of the keynote events in our region, and that's Nordic Business Forum. I had a chance to chat with Mr. Priit, who is the CEO of Nordic Business Forum.
What we try to differentiate ourselves with, and apparently succeeding in many ways as well, is the focus on customer experience. And that is not only customer service, it's the whole experience. So from the communication before you enter the conference to the materials that you receive after, but also when you come in, that you are taken care of, you feel seen. The audio-visual experience, one could say that, okay, it's a nice to have, but for us, it is there for a reason, that we kind of have this mantra that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. It's a quote by Maya Angelou, and we use that quote to train a lot of our voluntary, not the voluntary, but temporary organization that it becomes involved in the preparation phase of the last meters of the preparation phase. So the audio visual experience as well is important, because it enables people to be present, come to the moment, and take in the learnings. So I think focus on customer experience is a key factor in how we differentiate. It's easy to say that world-class speakers and names like Simon Sinek attract audience, but what keeps them coming back, at least how we have heard from customers, and what we try to design ourselves is just that unique attention to detail and actually caring for the customer's outcomes. Everything that you see in this production is like ideas come from somewhere, and for us they might not come from business conferences, they might come from TV productions, Eurovision, festivals. So ideas are everywhere, and you don't need to take them from the similar type of an event, but it's maybe easiest. That's innovation, right? And that's easiest and the natural way. We also go ourselves to different conferences to do speaker scouting, get production ideas ourselves. So great if we can be an inspiration for other organizers as well. And they have also been vocal about it, and we are communicating and kind of collaborating with different organizers as well, sharing information. There's a lot of, we call it customer intimacy. So you need to be close to your customers and talk to them. So we have we used to have, we call it NBF insiders, like a group of customers who have been with us for many years, who know us, but also we kind of tap into their day-to-day problems, bounce off different speaker ideas, also theme ideas, with no promises, like we cannot realize all, but you start to spot certain trends, and okay, we also need to have conviction ourselves that this topic is in line with our values. We want to project a certain kind of leadership out there, and but what's relevant, you need to, I think, follow the news, follow the sentiment, the social sentiment, and what business people are kind of struggling with. So we indeed also attend different events ourselves and have these conversations. So you're right, it is important, and at the same time it's hard, but we take it seriously, that we try to understand our customers and their needs very, very thoroughly.
Of course, the big names are the ones that attract most of the attention. And Oprah Winfrey, Stephen Burley, those are just two of the names that were announced as next year's headliners.
I'm personally super excited about next year's lineup. We have some really interesting names to look forward to. A few speakers who we have been trying to get to the event for many years. And this time we are succeeding.
One of this year's keynote speakers was Peter Hinssen, who not once but many times have rightly predicted the business trends in the world. And my good friend, tax lawyer from Sorainen, Jānis Taukačs, had an exclusive opportunity to sit down with Peter just minutes after his keynote speech at the Nordic Business Forum.
Your new book, Uncertainty Principle, I understand the core idea came from a philosopher you were reading. Is that true?
Well, the core idea, basically, I mean, I wrote my previous book it came out just before COVID. And that was The Phoenix and Unicorn, on how companies can reinvent themselves. And the book launch in Belgium was 2 days before we went into lockdown. So that was, a crazy period. And we've all lived through that. And then after COVID, I didn't see the world going back to normal. And I thought, there is no new normal anymore. We got into technological change with AI, ecological, social, geopolitical, and the world just kept evolving more and more in a very uncertain environment. Look at the uncertainty index, which is through the roof in 2025. And I started to think, maybe we're not going back to normal. Maybe we're going into a never normal. And that became the foundation of the book. I then started reading, and trying to say, okay, this uncertainty, is it something that we can use? Can we weaponize that? Can we actually leverage the opportunities in uncertainty? And I've always been a huge fan of quantum physics. I mean, I'm an engineer. I studied quantum physics a little bit, but I've been following it. I had the chance to visit some quantum computers, which I think are just absolutely amazing objects. And in quantum physics, there is the famous uncertainty principle. And the uncertainty principle basically says, you know what? You can't do it all. You cannot know exactly where something is and know exactly how fast it's moving. You can either measure super good how it's moving, but you don't know where it is, or you can know exactly where it is, but you have no idea how fast it's moving. So you're going to have to find ways to deal with the uncertainty. That is the very heart of quantum physics. And I said, what if we could apply this to a business environment? And yeah, the whole idea of uncertainty principle is very simple. We are in a never normal. So waiting for things to calm down, that doesn't make sense. But instead of trying to see all the scary parts, try to use uncertainty. Try to leverage the power of that. But it also means that we might have to rethink some of the instruments that we have. I always make joke of the annual budget, because the annual budget has been serving us well for the last 200 years, something like that. But most companies now realize it doesn't work anymore, right? You spend an enormous amount of energy in November building the annual budget for next year. The year starts, and by February, at least by March, you can throw it in the toilet because the world has changed. Yeah? And it means that we need to reimagine our instruments. And the whole idea of the uncertainty principle is three things. It's anticipating, understanding even better to pick up the ideas, the signals day after tomorrow, and then translate that. Two is to be flexible, adaptable, agile, because we live in a super fluid world where you need to be really good at adapting. And the third is you're not going to always hit the right notes. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. And then you need to show resilience and rebound fast enough. But anticipate, adapt, and resilience, that is the very core of the book.
You were mentioning budgets. Does it apply also to states when they are budgeting their finances?
I think in a way it does. I mean, the complexity now is that we have built machines, organisms that work at a certain speed, and sometimes that doesn't work anymore. There could be changes happening in the economy. There could be changes happening because of tariffs, for example, where you need to be really fast and respond. But the machines we have built don't allow us to be fast enough anymore. And I think 99% of what I do is for a corporate environment. I mean, I try to help companies become, better at anticipating, better at adapting, and better at resilience. That's basically what I try to do. I don't have a lot of opportunities to work with governments, but every time I do, I think, that's even a different level of complexity to be able to really turn them into an agile machine.
Maybe that's an opportunity to
maybe there's a next book there. Yeah,
head
exactly.
of state, yeah. Does it somehow fit with the so-called wabi-sabi principle in Japanese culture? That basically I read in a book that it's actually a normal state that your kid's living room is in a mess, and it's not normal if it's tidy and clean.
Yeah. Well, maybe, but I think what is important is that it means that we have to become more comfortable living in a world that is uncertain. And I think you see a lot of people now, when there is too much uncertainty, they freeze. They have no idea what to do. And what it means is that they probably are going to be too slow to respond. We're in a very strange situation now because of technology, because of innovation, because of how the world is evolving, is that the cost of doing has gone down tremendously. I mean, in the past, if you wanted to do a project, that was like a big thing. Now, the cost of doing is lower than ever, but the cost of waiting is getting worse. And I think this is a very interesting dilemma that we now have. And that means that we probably have to think differently about how to lead organizations, how to guide organizations. And that's probably the strangest thing about the new book, is that in the past, I would love technology and write a book about how excited I was and how you could apply it. I mean, the new normal was about digital and mobile. This book is not so much about technology anymore. It's really about what it means in terms of culture and mindset or leadership of an organization to lead organizations through times of uncertainty. And this is maybe me getting older. I'm 57. I mean, I'm still inside. There's still the young engineer who is just excited about all this new stuff. But the older I get, I realize it's not technology. You can't just buy Microsoft Copilot licenses and hope that you're going to become more productive. No, you need to fundamentally rethink how you're going to lead organizations in times that are more and more uncertain.
Yeah. You mentioned magic word productive. How to be productive nowadays? I was, and here I may refer to your book where you were speaking about Machiavellian forces, where one of the stages was follow all internal rules and procedures and also the external ones. It does not matter if the job gets done. I think it's amazing how, especially in Europe, how you get this more and more different rules and over-regulated, how to be productive in such environment.
It's a complex landscape, that's for sure. And it's wonderful to reread Machiavelli, hundreds of years old and still very relevant today. Yeah? I think the problem that we have is the challenges we have certainly in Europe is that we have become it's become the normal mode to first regulate. Yeah? And it's an old joke, right? I mean, the US innovates, China imitates, and Europe regulates. I think that is now changing a lot. I think I see so much innovation coming out of China at this moment. And the interesting thing is that when you look at the regulatory environment, I mean, rules and regulations in China is actually really, really intense. I mean, when you look at things like data protection and privacy, most people in Europe are actually surprised to hear that there is so much privacy and data protection rules in China. But I think the regulators in China are much closely connected to industry. And what you have in the US is you basically have a fight where the tech companies say we want as less regulation as possible. In Europe, we have as much regulation, but finding ways to actually make that work together. I think the times are over where this is cops and robbers. This is about trying to find ways that we're going to find ways to do this for good, but let's work together on this. And I think this is maybe a new era for regulation. There are plenty of examples where regulation can actually have a positive effect. I don't know if you watch Formula One, but Formula One is an interesting sport where the rules, every year there are new rules. And actually the rules define how companies or drivers and then the car manufacturers have to become innovative to use the rules. So this is a very strange environment where actually regulation and innovation go hand in hand. I think that's what we need to rediscover in Europe.
Yeah. The same is happening, by the way, in taxation. I see that depending on the tax rules, some companies adjust their recipes, how to produce the goods or food or something. But I understand that AI nowadays is basically disrupting this this productivity question, and I feel that sometimes companies now are a little bit blur in their choice of AI menu. And how do you see a way out of this too wide choices?
It's a fascinating environment at the moment because the AI tools have become super mainstream. I mean, I think what is fascinating is this is maybe the first technology that really went to the end user before it went to the corporates. When 30 years ago, when I started out, I mean, all the new technologies went to the business first, and then it would trickle down to the home. Now it's completely the reverse. And I don't know if you have children, but my children are 3-year users of AI. I don't think they could function anymore without AI. I mean, they don't use Google search anymore. They use Perplexity. I mean, they do all their schoolwork with ChatGPT. And I wrote the new book with AI for the first time. I've written 5 books without AI. The last book was written with AI. And I had 2 companions. I had Claude from Anthropic and I had ChatGPT from OpenAI. And the most horrible thing as a writer is you get stuck. Sometimes you think, oh, you know where you want to go, but how do you get there? And I would have half a chapter and I would give it to Claude, I would give it to ChatGPT, and they would come up with ideas. And I say, that's a good way to figure that in. They didn't write the book. They helped me write the book. Honestly, I'm never going to write another book without AI. So it's an adoption curve. The problem you now see is that in a corporate environment, many people thought, oh, we have to do something. So what did they do? They bought Microsoft Copilot licenses. Now it turns out that doesn't work. We had a big study from MIT coming out this summer that 95% of all the companies that are trying Gen AI feel they are not more productive, and they feel that their Gen AI pilots have actually failed. 95%. But if you drill down, it's people that thought, we'll just buy the Copilot licenses and we'll be fine. No, this is about rethinking how you want work to be done. This is about rethinking the role between man and machine. This is not just about buying technology. This is about fundamentally rethinking how you're going to work. And that takes a little bit more time than just buying a couple of licenses.
Mm-hmm. You were referring to kids. I saw fascinating quotes on the stage about your son, and that you were calling him and he's not responding, and emails are for vintage web pages. Yes, how to communicate now in this new world?
Well, it's fascinating. I was on the board of a bank for 4 years back in Belgium, and we had a big debate in the board about the future of our call center. And I said, honestly, I don't think we have to worry about it anymore, because in the future, people are not going to call anymore. I mean, I look at my kids, they never use the phone to call. It's not just my son. I mean, our daughter doesn't even want to call the dentist to make an appointment. She asks my wife to call the dentist to make an appointment. She's 26 years old. And that is just absolutely fascinating. I do think that we have to pick up the signals and understand what that next generation is going to use in terms of communication patterns. And that is fascinating. I mean, my son is a gamer, so he uses Discord. Discord is the #1 tool. But if you go to a lot of startups, they also use Discord. And Discord is basically a communication platform that came out of the gaming community. If you want to play your team against another team and you want to coordinate that in a very fast way, they all use Discord. And if you hear kids playing a game shouting, it's because they're communicating with their team like, oh, there's a sniper and there's behind your back. If we don't understand that everybody is using Discord and we still hope they're going to use Microsoft Office Outlook, then I think we are deluding ourselves. And it shows that we have to be even more connected, even better at picking up the signals and then translating that into opportunities.
Fascinating. We're running out of time. I have so many questions, but I've filtered two the last questions for you. One is about the Baltic states. How do you see the Baltic states? Do you have any advice to the companies or the governments to how to be different, how to live in this dangerous and disruptive world?
Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed the opportunity to go to the Baltics. I've had the pleasure to do a couple of conferences in the Baltics, and coming from a small country, Belgium, I understand what it is to not have the scale and not have the power that the big countries have. But I think it's also an opportunity sometimes to be more innovative than others. I mean, what the Baltics have done, for example, in being a front runner in digital was an inspiration to many countries around the world, even including my country, Belgium. So I always go there hoping one thing is that you keep up that fighting innovative spirit, because I think that's exactly what we need in these uncertain and disruptive times. It's the guts and the boldness to think ahead instead of being paralyzed by all the dangers. And that's where I hope to come back many, many times and still feel that inspirational vibe.
Fingers crossed. And the last question is to all my podcast guests, the same question. What is your version of meaning of life?
My version of the meaning of life, I think I heard an amazing quote that life is the worst possible sexually transmitted disease. But it's really about curiosity. I think for me, being curious in a world that is so unique, where we're still trying to figure it out, I think for me, the meaning of life is still being curious every single day of your life.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to.
And wonderful to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a chance to meet with several people who were attending Nordic Business Forum, for example, the ones that are coming there for business, and also the ones that were hosting different events on separate stages.
In a sense, it's not about the fame, but I think at least I feel better that I have been so accustomed to, discussing the economy with Peter that it's very good to have some other people in our studio and ask them what they're thinking about the economy.
Yeah, exactly. Because with Mikkel, we already know how to play tennis. But if you have a third player here, it is challenging in a good way. But if you ask about fame, then I have to be honest, I don't feel it in like everyday life, because I have friends who say that when's the next episode, and I have people who I know who ask that why is Nestor thinking like this about this matter, and but it is like it is in some sense comfortable that we don't probably feel the faith every day. If you sort of look at maybe the format of a podcast, then it's a little bit different than TV, a little bit different than radio, maybe a little bit more intimate and personal, because they will listen to it whenever they want, for example.
It's a very specific segment, I think we have, because I personally try to attend the hipster parties with 21-year-old art students, and there is no attention, I can guarantee. They don't recognize it.
Yes, and regarding being probably we're not probably rock stars in any sense of the word, but I have sort of seen that there are some economists or some people on the same kind of field that are slowly starting to copy our approach, because our approach is it's simple, it's approachable, and we try to explain it like to a golden retriever, and that's not like putting our audience down. We try to do it simple, we try to do it fun, and we are sort of seeing that others are trying to copy. And if the audience can get a better grasp on the concepts, then it's just perfect. I think that the start has already been rather good. There were some unexpected instances, but the talks were very good and educational. I think that they were better than I was expecting. I was expecting that they're going to be okay, but they were already better. So the energy level is growing, and that is a good thing.
For instance, our next talk would be one of the very well-known startuppers from Estonia, Kristaps from Ampere Bikes, and he has an excellent story that some point of time his net worth was approximately 50 million euros or even more. Now it's rather close to zero. And but still, that guy has continued doing in that business because he really loves the thing, and he has somehow risen from ashes. The company is doing better, and I think it's also good to have such kind of a story. So you cannot just the growth is never linear. So you have some good times and some bad times, and if you're strong enough, you can get through those bad times.
Oh, I don't know where the happiness comes from, but I have this joke that especially Latvians, they call Estonians the slow guys, right? Yeah. So, in Estonia, there's a lot of people who feel stressed when they go out to an event and they say, oh, I'm introverted, it was so hard. And then I always tell them that imagine growing up in Estonia as an extrovert. So I think it's just the way I'm built. But I think maybe I'm just one of those people who has just really taken seriously what is always said. It's like if you build a company, if you take investments, then shoot for the stars, go for it. Don't play small, play big. And if it doesn't work, it didn't work out. As long as you feel that you gave everything, it should be fine, and you should be able to restart. And that's kind of what has happened now to us after 12 years. And after this 12 years, I might be coming out of this with negative wealth, but I don't know, I'm not too stressed about it because, I have a roof on top of my head, I have a super nice family, and I really feel that, well, then we have to go again. But it's interesting because that's the story, that's kind of the vision, but in reality, you don't see people often operating at that. And also, the society is like, okay, why is this guy, looks happy when everything looks to be so down? But while I was building the company for 12 years, I've also got 4 kids. So kids also put things into perspective, right? So exactly. As long as they're healthy, everything else is just secondary. So.
We are coming back to Vilnius, and we will have 2 conversations still tonight. The first one you will hear with Jurgenstein, who is the co-founder and creative strategist at Optimist Creative from Tallinn. We'll talk about marketing strategies, of course, and impact which companies leave on societies.
We usually start, when we start with a new company, working with a new company, then we try to get them behind the table and do a workshop where we whether find out what the values are, real values. If you look at the mirror, then you believe yourself. Or we create the real values. So, because this conference is all about that, yes. And this is nothing new. It has been for thousands of years. Even like in Byzantine Empire, the emperors were thinking of what works with the people, how to resonate with them. And maybe we have lost it during like this 1,000 years time, but sometimes it's like making money is more important. And of course, every company wants to make money. But let's make the money making, our money making, to the consumer as nice as possible.
I have talked to many businesses, and they say to me that not all, but some of them say that the biggest challenge is that we have written down those core values that we have and how we act and what our brand is. And then suddenly external things change and people change, situations change, and of course we don't need to do. Now we don't know what to do with those values. Should we adjust? Should we believe our culture and just go on? How you deal with these kind of situations?
Well, actually, I think that it depends how detailed is the value. Because if we take, for example, Coca-Cola, and if you look at the latest commercial or the first commercial, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like several decades ago, you can still see that they are selling a happy life, always.
But the symbols may change, but the happy life is there.
Yeah.
Suddenly, for example, if...
or Apple.
Yeah, Apple.
Apple has been around also for quite a while. And their value is kind of being cool. Not the best in tech, cool.
Yeah. It was think different, so it is kind of a creatives and all that stuff. And then it changed because they started to appeal to the masses.
But they're still cool.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah. Does Baltic companies somehow differ from those that are outside of our region? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think that there's pain and gain in that we are a little bit behind. Like with, I don't know, the woke culture, don't please cancel me. But that might work for us. There is a lot to learn from international companies, and I think that we should do it constantly. Take the good stuff and maybe don't take the not so good stuff. So yeah, but it's all about the people. So.
And sometimes what I also see a little bit there in this market is that, of course, there are companies, mother companies in Sweden, and then daughters are here in Baltics. And of course, we do a little bit differently those things and that Swedes, for example, intended to do with the brand. So we are very good adjusting.
Yeah,
in these little gaps we are given. Yeah, we can. Yeah. And even if you know, from outside, everybody sees the Baltics as like one region. We are so freaking different, actually.
Yeah.
If we go to the details, maybe Latvia and Lithuania is a little bit more similar, but still different. Well, more similar in the sense that you fight over pink soup.
Yeah.
In Estonia, nobody knows what's a pink soup.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can't ignore the fact that we're reporting from Vilnius, and of course, the new government with Inga Ruginiene came in power this week. So last time in MedianReport, you heard the discussion with three Baltic economists, and Lithuania was represented by Swedbank senior economist Greta Ilikytė. This time, we will talk with Dalius Misiunas, who is a good friend of mine, and he is also the rector of ISM University here in Vilnius.
I'm happy to welcome back on MedianReport Dalius Misiunas. Hello, Dalius.
Hello, Kristaps.
It's nice that you are back after 1 year, and here we are again talking about Lithuanian economy. So, what are the emotions? First of all, emotions that you are heading into September, into autumn season, with the newly formed government, probably, and all that. What are your emotions?
Well, let me start with sports emotions. So we have received recently some sad news from Riga, from the basketball arena, about our team not winning against Greece. Before that, we had some very positive emotions, also a mix of victory and friendship with the Latvian team, which was a big celebration. So, it shows that in life there are ups and there are downs, and you just need to navigate those and continue. In terms of the economics, everything's doing fine. We are still growing, and it looks like it's going to continue, at least for a while. In terms of politics, quite the opposite. We just had a government that stayed in office for 8 months and collapsed, and in a very quite a controversial context with some alleged wrongdoings of the prime minister. Now we have a new prime minister, someone who's a complete newcomer to politics and executive power, and we have still a problematic coalition with some partners having some very, very controversial backgrounds and statements, positions. And we don't have the full cabinet yet, because 2 ministers were not approved by the president. So things are quite dynamic. However, I must say in a bit of a negative sense as well. So if we think about the business community and society at large, people expect improvement. They are not quite happy with what is happening at the moment. But of course, life goes on, and time will solve the things eventually.
Yeah, most definitely. From all the statements that we have heard in press and media, how would you maybe characterize the effect on the resilience or the growth of Lithuanian economy?
So in terms of the resilience of the country, if I may start there, the commitment to spend more on defense is there. So it's there, it's quite stable, and a promise to spend more continues to be in the program of the upcoming or the just new government. However, in terms of economy, it is not so straightforward, because current Prime Minister Inga Ruginienė, she was a Minister of Social Affairs and Labor in the previous government for that short period of time, and prior to that she was a head of labor unions, so a very strong social aspect. And since her start as a Prime Minister, we already heard proposals of discussing 4 days work week, as well as proposal to discuss potential of increasing the number of vacation days a year. So there is a strong feeling that she wants to sort of get some political benefit because of social policy. But of course, we need to balance that with the growth of economy, with income of a state to increase to cover that spending. So for that part, the income part, we have not heard the plan yet, except of maybe one thing that is mentioning about potential to increase taxes for banks. So quite a tight and situation where business community and economists are all sort of raising a warning voices that look, we need to think about both sides and not only just spending. And you might be aware, Kristaps, that we already have a law passed that releases the second-tier pension fund money.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think similar to what Estonia did in 2021.
Estonia.
So there's next year there's going to be a short party with a lot of celebration and spending, and of course, most probably after that we will get a hangover as Estonians did.
Exactly. Yes, these statements, of course, about shorter work week usually are done by countries or played around this idea. Which have higher productivity marks and scores. So probably it's not for Baltics anytime soon.
Not yet, for sure. And you know, it's when you think about it, it's quite a populist statement. You know, you take some as you say, some fraction of the picture. You say this is a nice thing. Why don't we have it without talking about the context, you know? And if Dutch economy that has a productivity much higher than Baltics can maybe even experiment with that, it doesn't mean that Lithuania or Latvia should do that, because we are not in that place yet, and we all understand that the success of last 3 decades was not because we worked less, but because we worked more.
Exactly. Yet another statement from Inga Rugniena was about the Ignitis group and about the potential to nationalize the company, and maybe in this sense it would mean taking it out from Nasdaq stock exchange. Your view on this one, is that also a populism, or is this something that the government can actually step up?
The idea of nationalizing Ignitis is coming from one of the coalition partners, a party called Nemuno Aušra. They were a surprise winner in the previous election with a very populist approach, and one of the main value propositions from their side was this nationalization. It has a context because we just went through the several steps of liberalization of the electricity market, which coincided with the energy crisis, and of course people were not happy with their electricity bills, and of course on each or on most of these bills there is a name of Ignitis, you know. So putting that together with the private capital having invested into the company, expecting dividend and return, of course it's very easy for populist politicians to make an argument for delisting. However, I mean, if you think from the governance perspective and from the investment climate perspective, it doesn't make sense. I actually proposed the opposite. Once this was put on table, I said, well, why don't we increase the listing? Why don't we offer more shares to people of Lithuania to invest and prioritize retail investors, so that everybody who is using Ignitis for electricity services would also have a chance to become a shareholder and get some return on that, which would make even more sense, especially when we know that people will get some money out of their pension funds. So, but of course, there is a political tension, and we don't know what's going to happen. And you know, any public utility that has a monopolistic services, and this is I'm talking about the grid services, always has this conflict that, return versus public service. And the only way to resolve it is by educating the market and as well as being transparent. So I hear from the politicians that some of them would like to, for instance, cancel out the independent board members in the board of Ignitis and let politicians be there. That would mean that we are going like 20 years back, and this is definitely not a good idea.
Of course, yes. In Latvia, we have this discussion about huge bureaucracy, and what I've noticed that what we have, we actually don't have very solid research or basis for this discussion in our country. But in Lithuania, it's different because your university has come up with a research and with some real numbers and findings about the potential to grow GDP. Can you elaborate a little bit on this one?
Yeah, so what we did like some sort of exploratory research. It's not too sophisticated, neither too deep, but we tried to sort of answer a question. So if we need more money for defense spending, what are the sources for that? And then we came across the efficiency of the state, let's put it this way, or efficiency of bureaucracy. And then we tried to look, so is there a potential of raising the capital for defense out of this? And surprisingly, I must say, the figures that we discovered are quite impressive. So basically, there are two parts of the value that can be created. One part is on decreasing the cost, so saving money that is now used for maintaining the bureaucracy in the state. Another part is releasing a potential of faster economic growth, because bureaucracy, procedures, red tape is like a friction or that is slowing down the economic growth, sometimes for a very good reason, but sometimes also just because it's inefficient. So we did both exercises, and on one hand we said that if Lithuania would be efficient in sort of administrating the public spending, as efficient as, for instance, Finland is, the bureaucracy could cost 680 million less. Even Estonia, in that sense, is 100 million cheaper than Lithuania. On the other hand, with the potential of additional growth, if the bureaucracy would be lighter in Lithuania to the level of Sweden, and Sweden is actually considered to be one of the lightest bureaucracies in Europe, we could estimate 6% GDP per capita growth, additional growth in 2027. So that is roughly 5 billion euros. Wow. In the economy. And of course, it means also growth in the public spending budget. And then that could basically cover the promise of increase of defense spending. So the potential is there, and it's substantial. And of course, what you need to do is you need to take some action, and that's a hard part, as always.
Have you had some kind of response from media, from politicians?
From media, quite a big attention we received. Also from business community, because we announced this study first in the EBIT conference, which is the biggest business conference in Lithuania, and everybody was quite surprised and excited about it. Government, well, we didn't have a government for a while, so it's hard to say if they considered that seriously. But of course, from one or another ministry, from one or another public figure, we received feedback, and I myself also was discussing this. We proposed three very simple steps that could be implemented to take it into the action. So number one is start calculating the unit cost, what a specific public service costs per unit. Second was the idea of having efficiency KPIs for institutions. So let's say if now the Ministry of Education has a number of PhD students as a KPI in the country, we propose to have also a KPI next to that, to have a KPI of how much euro cents is spent for administrating €1 of public money, in this specific ministry. And number 3, to have a 1 or 2 major impact targets or goals, So what do we want to change in the country by work of this specific institution or ministry? So these are on the table, and we'll see. Maybe the next government will be willing to take it into action.
To do something about it. Last time when we spoke, you mentioned that, and I asked about what you wish to Lithuania's economy, and you said that there are 2 things: automatization and innovation. Year have gone by, so what are your insights about these 2 things? Whether there is progress or it's not that fast?
I would say not as fast as I would like it to be, but again, we have to be realistic. We are in a shift from this, a situation where we had a labor cost arbitrage to a situation where we need to increase our value added. So it's not an easy thing to do, to implement. Still, on a local level, with businesses are investing. They understand that automation needs to be there for them to be competitive. So on a micro level, I think things are progressing naturally. On the macro level, we still don't have a clear direction for the country, and the public, like even with the bureaucracy, I can give an example. Recently, from this RRF facility, that was made in COVID, 700 million euro are being spent into digital transformation of public services. Still, during that time, the number of bureaucrats has not decreased. So there is no direct connection between the investment into digitalization and the cost of the system, so to say, and it has to be, it has to make an impact, So
money well spent.
Money well spent. Yeah, as we call in Lithuanian, įsisavinom. It means we took it and we absorbed it, But European money will not be there forever, or at least there will be less of it, and countries need to prepare for that.
Yeah, Dalius, as always, such a good time talking to you, and I hope we wouldn't wait for another year. We will meet sooner. So thank you very
Kristaps.
much.
Pleasure is on my side, and thank you for reaching out, and let's be in touch.
I hope you enjoyed discussions and interviews that we served you today. And I will just remind that you can find all the full-scale interviews with Dalius, Misiunas, Ben, Richard, and others on YouTube platform MedianReport. So I see you next week. We'll talk.
Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, join Median Premium Package for only $2.99 a month for exclusive content and full-length interviews. Find us also on Spotify and all the best podcasting platforms. Thank you for comments, shares, and likes. We appreciate them a lot.